All right, welcome to the Prospect Podcast. I'm Coach Human. We have a great treat for you today. I'm on here as always with Coach D. He's to the left, and the guy who's on the big top spot for us today. It worked out right. Is Coach Accorsi, one of the legends truly in New Jersey coaching. Um, the winningest coach of all time at Rowan with 143 wins. Was there from 2002 to 2023. And is now at a new gig, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a few seconds. He's also a fellow running back from back in the day. He played running back in Nichols College, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And that's where he first started out as a coach as well. I went to Rowan, I think, as an assistant in the '90s, and then eventually took over as head coach and built them into a powerhouse program. 7 times I think they won the NJAC and 7 NCAA playoff appearances, 5-time NJAC Coach of the Year, two national semifinal appearances as well. So really one of the great coaches in college football history, and certainly in Division III of all time. So it's great to have him on, talk some football. And now he is the head coach of Salem Community College, starting a program at the JUCO level, which is really exciting. You can see it in the background there, and we're gonna dive into that as well. So, Coach, welcome to the podcast. We're excited to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's funny to hear the accolades. It just kind of means I've been around the block a bit when you hear all that stuff. It's really what it is, right? I'm an old guy just trying to figure it out.
No doubt, and that's a good thing. No, that's a good thing, and the fact that you're still coaching is an even better thing.
Yeah, God bless you.
Yeah,
which is awesome. I'd love for you. I mean, I touched on it briefly. I gave the highlights. I love for you to tell kind of your journey in football, in your words. From the time you started out as a player all the way up until where you are today, and tell us about that ride.
But it was interesting. We were talking beforehand about youth football, and my dad was my first football coach in second grade. I played for the Scituate Sailors in Scituate, Massachusetts. My dad bought me my first pair of Eagle pads. They curved up. They were the coolest thing. And, he was obviously very influential. And the reason why I'm involved with football, my dad was my first football coach. And I didn't like it at the beginning because he made me an offensive guard. And I wanted to be a running back and carry the rock. And he was like, no. You got to learn the important players on the team, and you're going to be a guard. And I'm like, a guard? But my first football coach got the love of the game in, second grade. But even before that, watching the old New England Patriots back in the day, Sam Bam Cunningham and Steve Grogan and Hog Anna and Daryl Stingley and Russ Francis and Sam Adams and all those. So, I was just a football junkie early in my life. And again, my dad was my first football coach, so it was awesome. Played high school ball in Connecticut when we moved from Massachusetts to Connecticut, and decided to pursue it in college. I played at Nichols College, a really great small college business school, and had a great career and had a lot of fun. Met some lifelong friends that I still have today through football. Had gotten out of it, right? I got the 2 big jobs, Mobil Oil and Roadway, the trucking company, making a ton of money, using the degree, and I was miserable.
Yeah,
and I'll never forget telling my dad, I want to go back and be a football coach, and I couldn't tell you what he said to me at the time, but I ended up. It was very fortunate. My brother was at UConn. His roommate's stepdad was the new coach at Nichols, Jack Charney. And Jack had taken over for the legendary coach that I played for, Mike Vendetti. And he gave me my first coaching job, 1989. I was an assistant at Nichols. It was part-time. I was assistant football, assistant baseball, and I worked in the family business for my grandfather, father, and uncles, and was going back to work on my first master's degree. So that's kind of how I got the bug. I coached 4 years. My a bunch of my college roommates and teammates were down here in South Jersey. They were telling me about this school where a guy gave $100 million, and two of them were in grad school at Rowan at the time, Rowan College in New Jersey. I interviewed with Casey Keeler. I don't think he knows this, and I'll let it out. I kind of sweet talked one of the student workers and had gotten Casey's direct line from her. I'm like, listen, I call all the time, and he's never, I know he's busy. I can never get. Can you just give me his direct number? And she did. She probably wasn't supposed to. I don't know if Casey knows this or not. So I would call and he'd answer. He'd go, Prof Football, Casey Keeler. Coach Keeler, how you doing? He's like, Accorsi, how did you get my number? Like, how do you? And I just kind of, kept calling and calling. I came down in 1993 as a graduate assistant. I was the quarterback coach. At the time, we had Eddie Heston, who's now in our Hall of Fame. I didn't need to coach Eddie. I just stood there and watched. And everyone once in a while I go, Eddie, pick your elbow up. Or, Eddie, look at your third read. But I really need to do much. And was just very fortunate. Casey allowed his coaches to coach. He would always say, if I'm not here, Coach Accorsi is head coach B. And it was a great experience. I became full-time, his coordinator. And then when he had the opportunity to go to the University of Delaware, they did a national search at Rowan. And I ended up, kind of fighting and winning and getting the job and being there for 22 years. I'm kind of a dinosaur. Most people in this profession don't last at any level at one place for 31 years. I did. It's a great school, great place, great situation. Again, right time, right place, right people, right deal. I didn't know much about New Jersey. I dated some New Jersey girls in college, but I didn't know much about New Jersey. And my eyes were opened when I moved into New Jersey, and especially about the level of high school football. I was like, wow, this is something, and everybody talks about Texas, California, and Florida. But I tell people all the time, look at any NFL, BCS roster, whatever it is, there's Jersey people, guys all over the place. And very fortunate to be in a state where it's really, really important, football in New Jersey. And, just kind of right place, right time. And I'm now a Jersey guy, I think.
No doubt about it. Massachusetts to New Jersey.
Yeah.
That's quite a ride. So it's really interesting, the fact that you were able to really stay the course and stay at one place for such a long time and have such a great career there. And obviously we work with Casey, who's obviously now at Temple. And it's that tree is really a great tree. And obviously what you did in the tree that you developed is such a great tree. I got to know Coach Dottie, who coached with you back in the day, and a great guy. And obviously he was very good friends. He was very good friends with DJ and Imphius,
Yep.
and so, and just the program you built and the kind of players that you guys had over the years were just phenomenal. When you kind of when you arrived at Rowan and you started to build the program and you took over as head coach, were there things that you decided that you wanted to change from when Casey was head coach, like to fit your personality? Was there things that and maybe change isn't the right word, but like adapted to what fit your personality? Because obviously, I think what's unusual about what you were able to do is, there was really no gap, right? Casey did a great job, moved on. You had an unbelievable career and at Rowan, and just kind of continued to grow the program. I think that's unusual. A lot of times when a really good coach does well in a program, it's hard for the next guy to really have that amount of success. And you did a great job of that. And a lot of times they have a hard time adapting to what the program, to what their personality fit is, and being able to stamp it. And you seem to have, I'm not saying you had no problem doing it, but you figured that part out really well. If you could talk a little bit about how you did that transition, what that was like when you kind of put your own stamp on the program.
Yeah, and again, there are a lot of factors that went into it. The program at Rowan is fairly young if you think about it in terms of years. Coach Wacker had started the program basically in the kind of late 60s, early 70s. So if you look at the history of the program, it's not like a lot of other schools, certainly like Montclair that was in existence for a long time, Montclair State. So again, having Coach Wacker, the founder of the program there still, for me, was critical to understand kind of where the school was, how he built the program, where it was going. Obviously, his longtime assistant, Ted Kirshner, took over as head coach after him. And then obviously when John Bunning came in, that's when things really changed nationally, when the school made an effort both in basketball and football to be really good. John's the one that kind of started it with Casey, and then Casey carried it through, and then I was able to kind of carry it through, when Casey had left. The rules in Division III has changed a lot over the years. We had a lot of transfers back in the day. We would get top flight transfers from a lot of big schools in the 90s.
Yeah.
The transfer rules changed. Players couldn't, really go to Division III or II much. They changed the rules around, so it wasn't as easy as it was to do. The school itself, Rowan, had changed from like a commuter school to more of a traditional on-campus school. And again, the school, when I got there in 93, 6,000 or 7,000 student commuter, little campus. Now you look at the place, two medical schools, a vet school, over 22,000 students. Like it's like a city. It's completely different. So in order to change over all those years, that was the most difficult part, was what is a Rowan student and what is a Rowan football player? And that was really the hard part to navigate, to figure out as time changed through that process. But it was nice having Coach Wacker there because, God rest his soul, he lived in the same house when he started the program. He kind of helped me understand about change and adapt over years. We were able to keep some continued success. But again, when you look at the race facility-wise at a lot of schools, Mount Union, for example, Mary Hardin Baylor, even Salisbury now, like facilities at Division III schools are just unbelievable. And, there's a lot you need to adapt and change and overcome. But I was just fortunate there was a great foundation laid by the coaches before me. There was the founding coach there that helped me figure it out and then kind of go from there. But again, I always say this. New Jersey has great high school football, so it was easier for us to recruit being an in-state school, recruiting in-state students. And that was the fight, right? It was like Montclair, us, Kane, Willie P, TCNJ, and back in the day, Jersey City, fighting for New Jersey students. And we were all pretty good because we were spoiled. High school football in New Jersey is great. So we were really spoiled. So it was a matter of trying to keep it. And I think what helped us too, we were the southernmost school in the state.
Absolutely.
So a kid from North Jersey could get away, and maybe not go to Montclair or Kane or Willie P.
No doubt.
Go away to school and go down south. Well, if we were considered south, but kind of get away. So us and TCNJ were kind of the schools, kind of a little bit off the beaten path that I think helped us in recruiting. So I think there were a lot of factors that contributed to be able to keep it going. And then I'm most proud the program's still really doing really well. And the coaching staff and the coaches there are doing a great job and still keeping it on the cusp of championships and things. So I think that's what's most proud, right? Did you leave the program any better than when you got there? And I would like to say that we did. And there's a lot of foundational things we were able to build to continue its success right now.
No doubt about it. That whole thing with the athletes being able to get away and go to Rowan.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think especially North Jersey athletes, like people are always like surprised, like, oh, did they get a lot of players? Yeah, they get players from where their area is, but a lot of players from North Jersey want to go down there because that's the opportunity to get in-state fees, but yet go 2 hours away from where their home is. And the way that North Jersey people, as me and Derek are, look at Rowan when you're in high school, like you would look at it as that's like South Jersey, like not even like part of
Yeah, it's not even the
where
same
we
thing.
grew up.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
It's a
it's just
totally different culture, totally different, like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
we're
correct.
talking Philly fans, not Giant or Jet fans. We're
Yeah,
talking pork roll, not Taylor ham, right? Like, we're
yeah, yeah.
literally talking. And, as someone who like, I went through the recruiting process, and, Rowan and Montclair were both on it, right? And that was more, the appeal leaned a little bit at the time towards Rowan because it was the ability to go, quote, away, right? You
Yep.
were still home where mom and dad could still get there for game day and see you play. Not to mention a lot of your games were closer to North Jersey, right? Because the NJAC itself at the time was a lot of New Jersey based schools. And that was, but the appeal of, hey, I'm away, mom and dad can still get there, but I'm still going to get that going, south or going away to school type of experience, kind of pushed Rowan onto the list, or at least higher than some of the other Division III schools, when you're talking about that. And now, and Dave and I have discussed this over a lot with the rise of power public schools in South Jersey. Like, those schools, you're talking, they're winning state championships, those schools, the publics, not the privates, the big wigs up north, right, where we know they just do what they do. But the public schools and the regional more schools, because of more of them are regional based high schools down here. And look, you can say what you want about player movement within public high school now in Jersey, which is a hot topic, but those schools are really, really good. I mean, you're talking about literally the best Group 1 program across the street from Rowan, like literally across the street. Yep. Throw a rock and you hit the field, so I think that adds, some real appeal to what Rowan is doing, and with the investment of the program itself in terms of facilities, and football matters there, right, at that school. So for you to kind of take the reins of something that had already been and use that to your advantage, I'm assuming that's the same kind of approach that you'll have where you're at now. But I'd love for you to talk about that in terms of, I know we talked a little bit off air, but just how, I don't know, exciting, and how just like how interesting and everything that goes into it. You're literally starting a program from ground zero, like never had football. So it's you're literally starting this thing like from absolute zero. So what kind of went into that? How did it come about? Like, give me the whole forefront on kind of where you're at, in terms of how all of a sudden you are now the head coach of a program that has a schedule but doesn't really have much else, right, Coach? I mean, I think it's pretty wild.
Yeah. So I was really, when I first moved down here in 1993, I was really struck that there was not junior college options for players in New Jersey. And again, back in the 90s, Nassau Community College was the power, and most of the better players went there. And Lackawanna was just kind of starting in the early 90s. So there really wasn't options for New Jersey high school students if they wanted to go play JUCO football, right? There wasn't a lot of places to go, and there weren't a lot of options. A lot of players would go to Kansas, California, Texas. And I'm like, why is a New Jersey kid got to go all the way to California to, like, what's going on? And that really intrigued me and really bothered me. And then as I got to be at Rowan for a long time in the Jersey system, I would see these kids go to these places and like, why don't they have an in-state option? And again, that's what really precipitated my idea, was to do that. And then obviously, Lackawanna Community College, the power on the East, is going in the PSAC next year, Division II. So they're not an option for students. Mm-hmm. Monroe College up in New York, they're going in the Northeast 10 the following year. So they're currently not recruiting junior college students. So really right now in the East, it's kind of the three New York schools, North Jersey, with Sussex kind of up and down, and then really nothing down south until North Carolina, nothing out west till Ohio. And then now with the climate of recruiting in college, where colleges don't really recruit high school players anymore because of the portal, junior college football players are becoming more and more desirable than regular high school students. So it was kind of a combination of a lot of things that occurred that I thought would open up the door to be able to do something like this right now, that the time was right, the climate was right, the competition was right, and there are more and more students looking to go to community college to be able to play football. So it was kind of a culmination of a lot of things that I saw from a football perspective, that it was an underserved population. Like for a JUCO kid, there's not a lot of options. Like, what are they going to do? Where are they going to go? There's not a lot. I think we're going to now fulfill that. We have 150 football applicants right now. I was never worried about filling the roster. I was actually worried about how we're going to turn players away. And the word really hasn't gotten out of New Jersey and Delaware yet. It's just starting to hit all those other areas. So I think it's right place, right time, right situation. But again, serving the students of New Jersey and the high school players so they have a legitimate option to play junior college football. That's what I think it's all about.
I think with the transfer portal and some of the eligibility rules, it lends itself to kids going to junior college to get opportunities, and so many of the higher level opportunities, will go away, right? So JUCO gives them an opportunity again to really be able to do that, especially for the high school players that are looking for an opportunity. I wouldn't be shocked at all if you end up having to turn away a lot of players because of that situation. Um, have you already seen like a caliber of player interested that is much better than maybe you might have even expected?
Absolutely. Especially in the quarterback position. And again, it goes back to how college recruiting is. Colleges don't really recruit high school players that much anymore because of the portal. They're stealing players from each other and they're feeding down, right? The FBSs are taking all the FCSs, the FCSs are taking all the Division twos. And now you see, which I saw at Rowan before I retired, the Division twos are starting to dip in and take the Division three players. So you see it feeding down. And then with the rosters at those college levels reducing, so now, back in the day, Nebraska was the power because they would take 200, 300 players in Alabama. Well, that doesn't occur anymore because now their rosters are decreasing in size. So it all trickles down. The talent level I knew would be there. And again, I was only out for about a year or so, but I'm looking at a lot of these players. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Right.
Like we're going to be pretty good, pretty fast because of the climate of the talent of players. And the quarterback position, I'm like, oh my goodness. Like we had a kid from Akron, Ohio send a film, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, why isn't he? But the colleges just aren't recruiting high school quarterbacks like they used to, and a lot of high school players like they did. So the level that I've seen, I thought would be really good, is even more than I had expected. And again, I think with the climate, a college now is going to take a JUCO kid because he's proven he can do the academic work. He's gotten bigger, stronger, faster, and he can compete now at a higher level than a high school kid coming out of high school. And I think, and I've already heard, honestly, there's a couple of community colleges out by the shore of New Jersey that are talking about junior college football. There's a couple in North Central Jersey talking about college football. And there's a couple in Central Jersey talking about. And these are legitimate community colleges that are talking about football. Pennsylvania, there's several. Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, D.C. You're going to see, and I think we're getting in really early, but you're going to see them pop up all over the place, which I think shows the value of community college football.
No doubt. And it drives enrollment, right?
Yeah.
So it drives enrollment, and it's like a really perfect storm for junior colleges where you'll get enrollment from that. You'll also that's one of the things that they're looking for as people now more than ever want to go to 4-year universities. But in the sports realm, because of the transfer portal, a lot more kids are going to have to take the junior college route for a variety of different reasons in high school that you just talked about. So it's really a perfect storm. It's to me, it's almost like if you have a junior college in New Jersey, it makes no sense not to have junior college football, and you probably can go the route. It depends on how you want to run your system, but like, whether it's like the way they run it in California, the way they run it in Mississippi, where they run it in Kansas, or the way they run it in Iowa. I mean, I don't know which system is best, um, but all of those places have thrived because of the junior colleges having football, and it's helped. It's helped continuous enrollment. Obviously, it's 100 guys that are coming into your school, and then it begins to also boost other sports at the junior college level, right? So, which just creates a better population for your student population overall at the junior college. So, um, to me, I agree. I just think it's going to eventually be a boom. I don't see the system changing with respect to transfer. They might change the rules as far as how to do NIL, and maybe they don't let guys last as long in college or those kind of things eventually. But the transfer portal is here to stay. So you're still going to have a situation where, and we didn't talk about it, junior college right now, because of the injunctions that have happened, doesn't count towards your 4 years of playing at a higher level. So that's a huge gain for junior college, because now you could go to junior college and play for 2 years and your clock didn't start ticking. And that was originally one of the negatives that was killing junior college football, was that your clock was ticking. Now your clock isn't ticking at all. So it's really just 2 years to develop your skills and become a better student. Like,
Yeah, there's a couple of there's a couple of things about that which you mentioned. People don't realize the high school population in the country is decreasing because of the population. And I did all this data analysis for this project that I did. And the population, high school population, is not going to increase until 2036. So you're going to see colleges fighting more and more, all of them, just
for a smaller number,
just for students in general, because it's a smaller number.
Yeah.
And that's the data that I brought up here, was it's not getting better till like 2036 or 2037, because there was this segment of population of parents that just didn't have kids. So
right.
How do you fight to get college students? You're right. A football team helps you get 100 students right away. And Dr. Gorman, our president here, in some of the remarks said, I can't get 100 students anywhere except for starting football. Mm-hmm. Then other students go there because of football. They're now talking about starting cheerleading here just the other day, because now you need cheerleaders go hand in hand with basketball, which we have, and now football. So now you're talking about another 30 to 50 female students or males for cheerleaders. Easily. And now the ancillary effect of starting a program brings other students that want to be interested, because there's something to happen on your campus that's going on. So we're probably starting cheerleading right away with women's volleyball. So again, it's that fight. You're going to see smaller colleges, and I've heard already several that are in financial straits and stress because of the fight for college students, because the high school population is decreasing. The other part you mentioned about the transfer rule, and the eligibility is actually changed. And it used to be last year they made the moratorium because Pavia sued and got the year back. They went back to the old rule that it does now count against you for eligibility for this year. However, you're seeing people sue to get years back. So I think eventually, and they were supposed to vote this year and they didn't at the NCAA, to continue that it doesn't count, and they decided not to. But again, what do the big schools want? Do they want a player from high school or college, junior college, And do they want a 4-year player from the junior colleges? Absolutely. So they're going to be the ones that push the legislation to continue where it doesn't count against you. It actually went back and it does now, but now you see the lawsuits happening and there's going to be more and more. And then you know how the NCAA is. They're like, well, we don't want to deal with this. Let's go back to the rule. And then
whatever they have. Yeah, the NCAA. They're how close are they to even like disbanding because of just the way? But that's a whole other conversation.
Like they're holding on.
Right. Yeah. They're literally gripping, like just holding on to whatever they can because they, at the end of the day, when it comes to lawsuits and injunctions and this and that, and like, you know what I mean? Like this world that we've now ventured into, you know, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So they're going to have to figure something out. I don't know what they do or how they do it, but they're literally holding on, you know, gripping and with whatever they can hold on to.
Right.
Because
And again, you got to figure, you know, it's pretty easy to figure out what happens in football. It starts with the NFL. Why do the BCS teams now have general managers, rosters, and what they're doing? Because the NFL got tired of hiring a college coach that didn't know how to manage a roster with a roster limit and money.
Right.
So that's what's happened now is they've become the breeding ground for the NFL because now they can get a college coach that's used to roster management and knows how to deal with a salary cap or an LI or whatever it is. So it all trickles down. So again, what do the big power schools want? Well, do they want a JUCO kid that still has 4 years or a JUCO kid that has 2 years? They want a JUCO kid that has 4 years. So eventually the rule is going to go back to what it is because the breeding ground for the higher level. So again, all you got to do is watch. Whatever the NFL does, it eventually trickles down to the BCS Power 5, and then eventually trickles all the way down to Division 3. So it's not hard to figure it out. But yes, you're going to see that change and the rule change back.
Right. And we've seen that, right, where as a couple, like, you know, you want to go back to COVID, right? Like, which was obviously insane for everybody and whatnot. You saw programs now like killing football, right? And a little bit before that, there was this whole push after, you know, the movie Concussion came out about how unsafe football was. And, you know, it was seriously for a little while there, like the talks of it, you know, with the uncles of, you know, football was starting to kind of be, you know, I don't know, viewed in a certain way where it was almost like, hey, this isn't good. And then you saw some of these Division III programs, right, kind of kill it because of money and financial reasoning and or go to a pay for play model type of gig, right? Where for a couple of years there, it really looked like, oh, this might be an issue. Then you go back and you look at, okay, the NFL. How much do they generate, right? Like we're talking billions of dollars. They've basically taken over God's day, right, on a Sunday. Like there's nobody. They've turned it into a year-round sport where it really wasn't, right? The NFL draft has become something. The NFL combine has become something. The appeal for football has always been there, and the NFL has done a fantastic job in marketing it and making it a year-round thing where now people are more invested than just, you know, their team itself, right? Like they care about the whole general product, whether it be with the access to now gambling, whether it be, you know, fantasy football players, like the entire thing. And college football looks at it and says, well, if they're doing that, we are already making money. Let's kind of double down and take that model. So like you said, everything trickles down. You now see, you know, like you said, colleges with GMs and the expansion of college football staffs as to more than just coaches is what something that we talk about. And literally, you know, we have guests on and they're the mental health coach for a Power 5 school or a P4 school. You know, like you said, GMs, financial managers, marketing, right, with social media, guys that literally run their Twitter page or they're handling all of that aspects, right? The scouting departments, right, where coaches are now almost being told, hey, these are the 10 guys you're getting, right? 5 are from high school, 5 are from, you know, the portal, right? Like you have within staffs themselves, within scouting departments themselves at some of the bigger schools. You have guys recruiting the portal, you have guys doing this, where back in the day, it was your position coach wore a lot of hats. Maybe you had an equipment manager and a strength and conditioning coach. Now every one of those guys, I mean, look, we've done it. You go to a Rutgers practice, every position group has 5 or 6 staffers, 2 guys setting up cones, a trainer, a strength person, right? Like these things are huge. We've also seen a trend where college guys that would be maybe Division III players, or, they're now tracking and not even playing college football. They're going right into coaching. So we've seen football coaching, right? And within staffs themselves, whether it be, some other facet of being part of a college football team, but still having a job. We've seen the career paths change. Whereas back in the day, if you wanted to be a college coach, you either stayed at the program you were in GA'd and worked your way, right? Because there was 3 GAs per team. We've seen that expand. Guys now are literally going into college saying, I'm not going to play. I know I'm not going to play, but I love the game. I want to get involved right now. So you're seeing student managers, student coaches, whatever it is, guys want to jump on that bus right away. Any shoe in the door, guys will take. So for you, right, at a JUCO program, you're going to have guys that want to coach, right? Like, I don't think that's going to be an issue for you either, coach. You're going to have to turn guys away in terms of like, hey, like, I don't have that many positions. Feel free to volunteer. But talk about that a little bit, putting together a staff and kind of the next steps when it comes to that. Obviously, I think you have top-down support from your president and what he kind of sees what the program is going to do. But for you, how are you going to go about hiring a staff? And what road are you really going to travel down with in regards to that?
Yeah. And there were, when I first proposed this idea, there were 2 areas I was never worried about. One was I was never worried about getting really good players and the amount of players what we needed. I knew that was inherently built into what's going on. The second was because I've been in South Jersey for so long, I know almost everybody. So there are a lot of coaches that I know that are out there that would be really interested in doing something like this. I was able to hire Joe Doherty. Joe, GA'd for Casey his last year, and then my first year at Rowan. I've known Joe forever. Lafayette, Fordham, Catholic, Widener, a variety of places. He actually lives on the other side of the Delaware Memorial Bridge because Kearney's Point, where we are, is right at the base of the Delaware Memorial Bridge. He lives on the other side. He coached at Widener 2 years ago, and he's been out for a bit. So he was somebody that I just talked to early on. So he was the first coach I was able to bring on. I had so many reach out when I first started this as a consultant in August that I knew that wouldn't be an issue. And, whether it was a former player at Rowan or a former coach we had at Rowan or a former high school coach in the area or somebody that moved into the area, like that was never going to be, I ever thought, a problem. And I think that'll be an easier piece as we start to build this program from the bottom up. So I never really worried. It was funny. The longtime head coach at Towson, Gordy Combs, called me. He's retired, living down in the Market area. And he called me like in September. He's like, Jay, are you starting at JUCO at Salem Community College? I said, yeah, I am, Gordy. He goes, well, I might be interested. Are you looking for a linebacker coach? And I said, Gordy, I'm looking for anybody.
Right.
Sam Venuto, the longtime coordinator at Villanova, who grew up in the area, that's retired now down in South Jersey. I called him to see if he might be interested. A lot of former head coaches, Al Oriole, the longtime coach at Deptford High School. So I just know so many really good coaches that are great teachers that I knew would be a fit. So we didn't really advertise. We haven't.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I have a bucket load of resumes. There's a lot of coaches in the area that are either retired or on the back end or looking for something to do that I know are great coaches and teachers. So that was never going to be an issue. And then I knew I could supplement it with young coaches. We're fortunate that I had started kind of using interns at Rowan through the sport and communication study program.
Yeah.
When I started it, would have anywhere from 10 to 15 each semester. They're continuing that at Rowan, which is great to see. And I continued it here. I have 5, 8, 9, I have 10 Rowan students through sport communication, media studies, sport management that are interning for us here right now. So, you're right. There's a lot of those students that are out there that know, maybe it's not coaching right away, but it's player personnel or recruiting or football operations.
Well, the coaching part is easy, right? Like you can teach guys how to coach. You can teach them. I mean, look, you got to have some knack to it, right? I get it, right? And obviously you don't want to throw them to the wolves or any of that stuff. But in the grand scheme of it, and you also want to supplement, I guess, maybe weaknesses or is the wrong word, but where you wouldn't be as savvy as some of the younger or whatever it is when it comes to, right? And it has nothing to do with your age, because believe me, by no means am I the young cat on the staff anymore. You know what I'm saying? But I'm asking my players, like when it comes to social media stuff or, some of those things that kind of link up with this group or kind of how these kids are today, what kind of works and finagle kind of what appeals to them more so, because you got to connect on certain levels. And if you can hire people, right, or get surrounded or bring those people in and surround yourself with guys that, only up the program or make it better in ways where you're maybe a little less in tuned with it, then sky's the limit, right? If you have the ability to do those things, you can kind of take it to the next level a lot faster than others.
Yeah. And you're right, because of the enlargement of staffs from both the NFL and the BCS and now down, because of the enlargements of staffs, there's more opportunities for young people to go work behind the scenes, whether it's for a professional team or a college team, in an athletic department or an organization. That has definitely helped, and it permeates down even to small college football, that you're getting a lot of these young people that are interested in getting their foot in the door, getting experience, knowing that they got a great chance to get a job, maybe not just in coaching, but in some facet of the organization. So certainly the advancement. And again, when you look at staffs like the Division I staffs, some of them are much larger than even the professional staffs in football. It's pretty amazing how many people. But again, I think it provides a lot of opportunity, and it does help small college football as well.
No doubt about it. It makes a huge impact from that standpoint. I'm curious with the athletes that you've been getting to recruit, what are the kind of things that you think are going to be important for you at the junior college level when a high school athlete is interested in coming to you? What are some of the kind of qualities of that athlete? Because with JUCO, you'll get different situations than what you had at Rowan, right? So talk about that, what you're looking for from that standpoint.
Well, I think it's, a couple of different things. One is, the vision I have for the program here, which I think fits for what young people are maybe looking in a junior college program. I've had my career. I'm not chasing my next job. I don't have to do this. I'm doing this because I want to do this and I want to help young people. So, a young man knows he's coming in. I don't have to win games. I'm not chasing my next job. I'm doing this for a lot of different reasons other than that. So they're going to come into a program where, there's going to be stability. I know what a good college program looks like. I did it for 35 years at a pretty decent level. So they're going to come into a program that's going to be a good college program. I say this all the time. I'm trying to break the misnomers and bad, maybe knocks on junior college football and dispel all those things and say, no, we can run a good college program that's a great experience. Maybe not you saw on Last Chance U and all the craziness of it. It doesn't have to be that.
Right.
We're going to run a good college program. So as a result, the vision for us here is we want high school coaches to want to send their players here and be in a good college program. They're going to be treated the right way, like I know how to do. And then on the back end, we want college coaches to come and recruit our players if that's what our players want. I know what they're looking for at those levels. Casey Keeler was my former boss. I know what he's looking for at Temple. You know, Ryan Carty down at Delaware. I've known him a long time when he played for Casey. I know what he's looking for. Mark Ferrante over at Villanova. I know what he's looking for. So that's the part here is we can help you be in a great college program, but because I've been around for so long, I can make and help you in the connections on the back end. I joke about this all the time. I was out recruited by 2 young players from Pleasantville back in the day by a young coach, and I wanted to get to know who the guy was that beat me. And they went to Delaware Valley, and I followed the coach's trajectory and got to know him pretty well. From Delaware Valley, he went to Hopkins as the DC. From Hopkins, he got his first head coaching job at Salve Regina. From Salve Regina, he went to the playoffs, Division III, went to Assumption, went to the playoffs, went to Holy Cross, went to the playoffs, went to JMU, won't be FBS this year. And now, I consider him a good friend, Coach Chesney. He's the head coach at UCLA. I know Coach Chesney. So I can tell the players here, listen, I can't get you into UCLA. I can't get you a scholarship to UCLA, but I have enough connections because what I've done, I can help you get to maybe where you want to go. So the vision's simple. I want high school coaches to want to send their players here, develop a good program, have them be in a good program, and then get them on the back end. And on top of that, the goal for me is really simple. My ultimate goal here is to help them reach all their goals. I'm not chasing my next job. This is it for me. When I leave this, I will finally retire and go hang on a beach and sip pina coladas with my wife.
Yep.
I'm only doing this to help young men in New Jersey because I'm a New Jersey guy. And my goal is simple. And I tell all the guys that. I said, listen, I'm just here to help you. And I'm helping you reach all the goals that you want to do. That's the only reason that I'm doing this, or the sole reason, is to be able to help you do those things. And I think when you develop that relationship with people in general, and specifically young people and players, and they know you're there for them for all the right reasons, they're going to trust you. They're going to know and believe in what you're doing, and they're going to follow your lead. And I tell all our young guys that I've talked to here, I said, there's 2 things a college coach is going to come and ask me when they're interested in spending a lot of money to have you go where they coach. I said, the first one's going to be, what is your GPA? It's the same thing I ask of all the high school coaches and students when I recruit. What's your GPA? And then the second question is, what type of person is he? Is he a good kid or a bad kid? Is he a good guy or a bad guy? Those are the exact same questions that I ask now that I always have, that college coaches are going to ask, that I need the young men here to understand. I don't expect you to be a straight A student, but I expect you to be the best student you can be. Why do they do the Wonderlic test and all those tests in the NFL? They want to know if they're getting and expending a lot of money on somebody that's fairly bright and smart and knows what they're doing. Why do they bring them in the NFL to have all the interviews? It's the interview to see if they like the guy. Because if they're going to spend $1 bazillion on him, they got to make sure they like the guy and they know what he's doing. It's the same thing that we're going to do here. And I think, again, it lends itself to be able to understand the young men, I'm just here to help you. I don't have to do this. I don't need to do this. I want to do this, and specifically help young men in New Jersey, because I'm a New Jersey guy, even though we're going to have a lot of players from a lot of areas. So I think when you break that down, you do that, I think that it's going to lend itself to being very successful.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal. I think when you get to you see a lot of coaches that actually have a resurgence late in their career for that exact reason that you brought out. So, when you're a lot of guys have success when they're just like you did when you're young because you're taking over a program, you're super driven, you've learned all the things you learn, you build the program up, and then I would say that midpoint of the career is always like becomes a difficult part for coaches because they're not older, you know what I mean? But they've accomplished a certain amount of things and they kind of continue to figure out like what they're doing this for, right? And that last, when you actually do become older, I feel like, okay, why you want to do it for sure, and you're only going to do it on those terms, and that lends itself to a ton of success. I mean, at the highest level, I pointed to, I point in college football. I point to the Indiana coach. I mean, he's in his 60s. I mean, look at the success he's having, right? Because you start to figure certain things out from all the stuff you did, and you're like, okay, let's brush off, let's brush off of the part where I'm worried about what the athletic director wants, and I'm worried about what the head of the school wants or the president wants, and adhering to all those things. Now I'm coaching with the objective is this is what I think is best for my program, and if everybody's on board with it, great. This is the right place, and I'm going to be able to succeed at a very high level. And talk a little bit about that. I mean, that's kind of my theory because I've seen it a lot with coaches. Hey, listen, you can point to Bear Bryant. That happened to Bear Bryant. The end of his career, he won a bunch of national championships. He was great early on. He had a middle low, and then he resurged at the end of his career with a bunch of national championships. Because it's like, hey, I'm just going to coach the way I want to coach, and everybody's gonna, I'm coaching for these reasons because I love it, because I want to be a part of it, and so talk a little bit about that. Am I on the right page with my theory? I don't know.
I think you are. I think for most of my career, I was allowed that, and that was the goal. Sometimes colleges change and things change and goals change and things get cloudy and people lose perspective sometimes. But for the most part at Rowan, for most of it, it was pretty clear cut what we were doing and what was important. That's what impressed me here at Salem. When I met with Dr. Michael Gorman in June, and I pitched this idea, he thought I was selling him something like equipment or something. He didn't really know what I was doing. I was selling him an idea and a concept. In the first half hour of the conversation, he stopped and he said, Jay, wouldn't it be really neat if every year we helped 100 young men in their lives? Like, what administrator says that? And what president of a college says that? And I was like, I was sold right then and there. I think I always got into coaching, and I initially got into it because of the relationships and my love for football, and I think that's continued. I think over time, my perspective of winning and losing changed, and I understood more about the big picture when you do this for a while, and you understand maybe it's not the wins and losses, but it's, did you affect people in a positive way? Did you help young men grow and develop? And again, you're exactly right. I think when you get older, you put it more in perspective and you see the bigger picture and you see the more important things in life. And for me, that's what it's always been. Football is a microcosm of life. And it's a way to interact with people, help people, but specifically help young people figure out where they're going and what they're doing. And you're right. I see that happen. It's like, right, Dick Vermeil, the old legendary Eagles coach. Why was he so successful later in his career with the Rams and then the Chiefs? Because he had been around a little bit and he understood it a little bit and he knew what he was doing. Why did Nick Saban do so well at the end of his career at Alabama? Because he saw the big picture and he was able to understand how things worked and what it was. Jay Wright at Villanova for basketball.
Same thing.
Why at the end of his career did it change for him? Because you're right. And I think, Dave, you mentioned that's really important. Like, you put things in perspective and you understand. I think it's because you see the bigger picture more clearly. When you're younger, you don't. And when you're just in it for certain things and you're trying to get through the day-to-day and whatever, you don't. But I think you're right. You see, especially, more, I want to say older people, because I know I'm an old guy, but maybe wiser people in all facets of life do better in those later golden years because they have a better appreciation and a better perspective of what they're doing and understand what is really important and what is not. When it's all said and done, right? This is a game. As much as we say whatever it is, it's a game. And it's people involved in a game. And you have to understand that part of it. And for me, it's always been about what lessons and things you learn being involved in a game or a sport or something that you love. And I think you hit it right on the head. I think you see older, more wiser people be more successful later in their career because of that fact. And again, I'm hoping I'm just a proof of that theory that you have that I agree with.
No doubt about it. And I'm certain you will be. It's like I look at in basketball Gino Ariema, right? And
Oh my God.
yeah, so he was when I played at UConn, and he was super young and was like, won their first national champs. They went on that run, won a bunch, and then now I look at him, and so it's like, yeah, you're the enthusiastic. You're never young as a head coach, but like younger head coach, and then it's this thing like you look at Gino now. It's like, oh my God, like he can't be touched because now he's their grandfather, you know what I'm saying? And who doesn't love their grandparents? There's I mean, I think about it like, who doesn't, what teenager doesn't they might hate their parents, right? But they love their grandparents. So when you're a younger head coach, you're like the young parent. Everyone likes the young parent that's exciting and full of energy. Teenagers hate their regular parents that
Because
are
they're not
now
cool.
somehow because
Yeah,
they're not cool.
They're not
But
cool.
their grandparents are cool.
They're cool. Yeah, they're cool. No, you're exactly right. And I think, and again, I remember, so my brother was at UConn in the late 80s. So I remember when Gino was hired.
Too, right? Yeah.
Which says,
he was a professor there too, right? Yeah.
When he first started, he taught and he was coaching. And,
okay, yeah.
And that's, obviously when, the men's team really took over and started to get really popular early on, but Gino was hired in the late 80s and they were god awful and they were in a horrible gym and it was bad. So he remembers what it was like then and now understands where he is now. And you're right. Like you look at him and everyone's like, well, is he really coaching? He coaches those players, Saturday to Sunday and all those other times so that when he gets to the game, he knows they're prepared. So everybody's like, well, he doesn't really coach anymore. No, he doesn't have to coach during the game. He coaches them leading up to the game. And he knows all the little buttons and things you push and what you do. So he knows and he feels comfortable that he's gotten them to a good level. And you're right. He's now the grandfather for all the former players and their kids. And, he's revered more now than what he was even back then when he was trying to cut it and make the program be successful.
No doubt about it. Okay. My final question, I'm sure Derek has some too. My final question is, what is kind of your vision as to, players come in the door, and what do you project with how you're going to, engage from a program standpoint? Like, what can they expect when they come in the door, and what will that look like when it opens up?
Yeah, I mean, my expectation is, and the hope and what we're telling them is they're coming into a good college program that's going to be run the right way, and we're going to concentrate on the correct things, and we're going to develop them not only athletically and football-wise, but we're going to help develop them academically, which is super important as you make the transition from high school to college, and socially, which is even probably the most important part when you transition from high school to college. And again, because I was at Rowan for 31 years and previously 4 years at Nichols, I think I understand what a good small college program football is like. So that's what we're going to develop and grow here and have them do that. And then understand again, like I said, with our goals, my main goal is to help them reach all their goals. I know what they should do in terms of strength and conditioning and what they're looking for at next levels. I know what they're looking for GPA wise and academically at the next levels. I know positionally what they're looking for quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, offensive line, tight ends, defensive linemen, linebackers, hybrid, secondary guys. Like I know that, and I know what it looks like, and that's what we're going to have here. to be able to help develop them in all facets. And I tell them it's very simple. If you come, one semester and somebody scoops you up and pays for school, God bless you. If you're here 2 years and you get your associates and maybe you don't go to a 4-year school or you don't want to, now you're in a better position to get a better job than you did coming out of high school. If you come here 2 years and you grow and you develop, and then you hit it big and go to a big school and somebody pays for your education, that's awesome. Again, it's whatever they want out of this experience. That's what we're going to give them. And again, coming from my experiences at the small college level, I know what a good college program should be and should be like, and that's what we're going to do and have them here. And again, I want to dispel all those negative connotations about junior college football. Like, we don't have to fight after every play. We don't have to fight after every game. We don't have to fight at halftime. We don't have to have, players, they think they're going to show up and just play because they show up and play. Like, that's not what a college program does. So I want to make sure, and our goal is to develop one of the finest junior college programs in the country. And I really believe that we can do that again. And that's what we want our players to know. And I tell them all the time, listen, if you think you're coming here and I'm the guy that's going to tell you it's, hunky-dory and happy all the time and life is great, it's not me. I'm going to tell you what I firmly believe in my heart and my soul, and be hard on you and make you demand of yourself what you can't right now that we're going to do for you. Knowing that I love you and I care about you. That's really what it comes down to.
Right. Because it's about having some of those difficult conversations, right? That, absolutely. We see a lot of guys now either shy away from, or, they sugarcoat it because, sometimes those guys aren't going to like the answer that you give them. But in giving them that answer just shows the level that you actually care to kind of have that tough conversation. Coach, the one thing that I just, and I'll finish with this, was coming from a Division III program and now going into a JUCO setting, right? Obviously, we talked about it a little bit off air. The rules are different. There are certain things and parameters that are allowed in JUCO that aren't in Division III. What have been some of those eye openers, right? And look, I understand. I'm sure you did your homework before you jumped into it, but can you pinpoint a couple of things that it's, hey, this is okay in JUCO, but it wasn't in Division III, that kind of really were eye-opening for you when you kind of made this move?
Yeah, I think because the rules are very vague and it's really hard to interpret. I think that's what lends itself to programs at the junior college level kind of floundering and off track. So even though there's a lack of some rules and regulations, I'm going to kind of do what I know is good and best that I think will make this program different. Again, anything from practice to equipment and when you can practice and times and lifting and just the structure of it. When I got here, like, the basketball team was like working out in August. And I'm like, really? Division III, right. You have all those certain hard dates and things that you can't do. And then, well, it's a training camp. I'm just starting to do it. I'm like, well, I can come in August 1st. In Division III, you couldn't come into like middle of August, and you can only do this and only do that and only do this. And I'm like, really? I have more time to do this and that. So I think it's kind of working within the time frame of what makes sense and is sensible, and not going overboard like I think a lot of people do at the junior college level. But at the same time, using those to your advantage, and understanding, the process of what you need to have in place to be able to do it. And again, I'm looking at the rules, and for the spring, it's, oh yeah, you can practice 20 times. I'm like, all right, well, can you do equipment? Not that we have equipment, but I'm like, can you do equipment? Is there an hour limit? Is there a time frame? And then I'm talking to some of the guys that I know. Mike Kemp, a good friend of mine, is up at Erie Community College. And I'm like, Kemper, can you practice in the summer? He's like, well, you can kind of do this and that. He goes, I don't, but kind of some people do that, right. And I'm like, well, hold on here. What? So I think it'll be kind of, the part where I need to learn a little bit about,
right.
The restrictions off of it that I think are silly, but at the same time, having a structure and a framework that just makes sense for everybody. I think that's the part that I'm still kind of learning.
Right. And I know you said that you already had a schedule in place, coach. So like, who will you be playing? Will you be in an official league? How does that kind of work? Right. Cause we talked about the Northeast not having many of them. Obviously, the teams that you're going to be playing and whatnot. I know you have home games, you have away games, but how is that going to lend itself to kind of year one as a brand new program?
Yeah. So, we're very fortunate. We have 8 legitimate games for the fall. I wanted to stay away from those pseudo programs that aren't really kind of affiliated with academic schools.
Right.
I just we would scrimmage them and do things with them at Rowan, and sometimes it'd get a little out of control. So I was
it's always hit or miss. It's always hit or miss.
Yeah. I was really hell bent on. So, we're going to play legit. We're playing the community colleges in New York. We're going to play Erie Community College. That'll be our one overnight up there. Mike Kemp is a good friend of mine. We're going to play, Hudson Valley Community College up in New York, a legitimate program. We're going to play Nassau Community College, a legitimate program. We're going to play Sussex, our neighbors up north. We're supposed to play 2 games. Now, I know they canceled their season last year halfway through, and they've been up and down, so I'm hoping we'll have 2 games with them. We're going to play Thaddeus Stevens, the trade school. And then the coolest part about this is when I was at Rowan, we used to scrimmage Army prep up at Army. And we're going to play them in a game at Army prep, which is right on their campus at West Point, which I think is awesome.
So cool. Yeah.
To be able to show your young men, listen, there are guys getting ready to defend, and especially these days, right? There's guys out there fighting, doing things for us to keep us safe. So we're going to play both Army prep at Army up at the prep, which is the top of the West Point campus. And then the last one came out of nowhere. I got a call. It was a former Villanova player who coaches at Navy prep. Now, Navy prep is in Rhode Island. So I'm like, well, coach, we can't. He goes, no, coach. He goes, I think we might be able to do it down in Annapolis. So I'm like, what? Now, I've never been to Navy.
It's a great spot.
It's on my bucket. It's on my bucket list. We're actually going to play Navy prep naps at Marine Corps Memorial Stadium down in Navy on a Friday afternoon. Like, how cool is that? So we got Army Navy prep and then the JUCOs, and we're playing a legitimate 8-game schedule. I thought 10 would be too many the first year, but we'll be able to pick up. But we're going to only do, legitimate trade schools that are postgraduate, legitimate community colleges, and Army and Navy prep. Like we're going to play, and the guys are already excited, legitimate programs that, they're going there for the right reasons to do the right things. Then I know we'll be able to fill it. And again, I've mentioned, there's a couple community colleges out in the shore talking about it in New Jersey, Central Jersey community colleges talking about starting football, some up in North Jersey talking about football. So my guess is going to be there are going to be others looking to see what we're doing and starting programs. So our hope is, and we've had conversations with Bob Hughes, our athletic director, and Mike Gorman, our president, to be on the forefront of starting a conference like they used to have. I think it used to be called the Seaboard Conference when it was Lackawanna, Hudson Valley, Erie, Nassau, Monroe, and the others. So we're in the process of helping get the community colleges to get together to develop a conference, especially when new schools pop up. Because, again, that gives your players awards. They get recognition. You're playing maybe for a conference championship. So I think, again, we're getting in the cutting edge early in this process, that there are going to be several in the area that we'll be able to add and create a really nice conference. So that's what the plan is down the road.
It's awesome, Coach. It's awesome. Coach, we can't thank you enough for taking the time. Obviously, we know you're a busy guy, especially starting a new program. A lot of things, a lot of hats to wear, right? A lot of things to get done and take the time and kind of put your focus to. But we really can't thank you coming on. Just getting eyes on your program. Obviously, informing our viewers of a little bit more about the JUCO world itself, which is kind of one of those, people they think they understand it, but they don't really get what goes into it or it's kind of that forgotten level of football.
Yep.
So we can't appreciate, I appreciate you taking the time and coming on and talking with us today. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, not a problem. I've seen your podcast. I've followed you guys over the years. And again, I appreciate what you do for football, and appreciate the exposure for our program, but just for football in general, and creating these avenues to be able to talk about these things that are really important. So appreciate you having me on, and appreciate you having me talk with you about this. And, again, my last pitch is, if you're a young man and you're not sure about four-year school and you're looking to still play college football and you're not really sure about a four-year school and you don't know what to do, just reach out. You can get us online on the website, reach out, let us know. And like I always say, there's a place for a young man to play football somewhere. It's all our jobs to help him get to that spot and do it. And that's what we're trying to do here. So again, I appreciate your time and having me on there, and appreciate what you do, not only for New Jersey football, but football in general. And thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Coach. Great having you on, and we'll see you soon. All right. Have a great day.
Awesome.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. Bye. Great stuff, dude. Really cool. That's interesting, by the way, that they might have a conference.
Yeah, I can see that.
And
Well, I know like some of the schools around here, like Brookdale's talked about it. Ocean's, like, everybody wants to talk about. I mean, especially up north, like Morris County, always talked to, like, those community schools always talked about it, just because there's so many players within a small area that, like, might not be that next level player at the level that where the opportunities are, and they don't know if they or can't, go out of state where it is, right? So to have that opportunity to kind of go either get their feet wet at a 2-year or kind of use that to springboard them to something else, I mean, it's just a great opportunity. And like, Coach mentioned it too, with Lackawanna kind of moving and some of these other JUCO programs transitioning to NCAA, 4 years, right? Like the opportunity to play JUCO isn't really, as, the opportunities aren't around like they used to be. So,
Right.
Like he said, right place, right time. No doubt. There's no doubt that he's going to kind of take that by the bull by the horns when it comes to that, and kind of use it going forward. I mean, because there'll always be guys that want to play. You know what I mean? Like, no doubt.
Absolutely. 100%. There's always going to be guys that want to play, and I think that opportunity to be there. So, yeah, it's good stuff, man. Really, really good stuff. It's
and the appeal, like you said, to have a guy that's been there, done that, knows what it takes to get to those next level, has the connections. And look, we talk about connections all the time, right? Like that's all they are is, hey, like I can mention, I might know a guy here, but you know what I mean? You still have to put in the work. So, but somebody would now be more in tune to possibly take a guy from his program because of who he is, what he's done, his track record.
No doubt.
You know what I'm saying? Like if he signs off on a kid, hey, this guy played for me for a semester or played for me for 1 year, right? Like now it's only going to put them a little bit, higher on the pecking order, with opportunities moving forward, for them to kind of, if that's what they want to do. And if it's not, then that's the other thing too. At least he's going to do it the right way. It's not going to be a last chance you type of situation. You know what I mean? I think that's because that was such a big thing and like in the limelight of what people view college JUCO football as, right? Like that's not really how he's going to do it, right? Like there's going to be parameters. It's going to be run like a high level, college football program. And those guys are going to have that structure and all of those things moving forward. So he's really in a good place. I'll tell you what, though, that's a tight time window, man, to like literally have to get all of those other things in line to start playing come, September. I mean, whew.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. It's interesting. I mean, I think that would be good for Jersey football, to be honest, in my
100%. Because I mean, look, it's mainly
opportunities.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Rutgers, Monmouth, right? Then Montclair State, TCNJ, Kane, like, right, William Patterson, but like, now you throw a JUCO in there, right? Like, or another, I should say, right? Because Sussex Community, but they've been kind of wavering the last couple of years. They shut it down mid-season last year. You know what I'm saying? So the stability of that, like he'll already be ahead of that in terms of go there, go here, based on, hey, like we're gonna have stability, like this is gonna be here, like this is, you're not gonna have to worry about like having, having your season canceled mid-year, right? So that in itself, I think, and like I said, like with the rise of public school football in South Jersey, I mean, it's always been good, but it's gone to a different level recently. You know what I'm saying? I think he's gonna kind of, he can kind of, again, right place, right time, where there's a lot of athletes that are looking to do and play college football that maybe they're not 4-year guys. Like he can take advantage of that. He's going to get a high level player. I love that what he said about the quarterback thing, because we talk about that all the time, right? Like quarterback is a very different position when it comes to getting recruited and whatnot, because there's only one of them.
Very
You know what I
difficult.
mean? So any opportunity, some of those guys, whether it be guys from in-state, local, like he's going to get a plethora of quarterbacks that are always going to want to go and be the starter somewhere,
There's no doubt. Uh, it's one of those things where you're gonna find definitely good quarterbacks. There's a lot of good quarterbacks that are gonna be available. The hardest thing always at JUCO is probably gonna be offensive lineman. Is my
No doubt.
like, I think they'll have no problem in basically all the positions. The hardest, probably O line, good D lineman. You'll have D lineman, but O line and good D lineman are always the hardest thing. But
Right. And look, most of those guys are going to either be, look, they might have just, maybe their grades aren't where they need to be. Maybe their measurables are a little bit under what they're, whatever, maybe they're a guy that was like a tweener, or, you know what I mean? Like he had a couple offers here, but he's really kind of looking to go somewhere else or something. You know what I mean? Like he's going to have some of those, but look, I don't think it's going to be. And like I like the schedule that he's played too, because again, you want to play reputable teams. You don't want to be just going and beating up on schools that are, they don't have any reputation of being solid programs or good foundational places, right? Where you're going to go against people that are on the same playing field in terms of all the off the field stuff. And then look at, like, as it grows and builds and solidifies certain things, like then you can kind of go and play other teams and whatnot. And with that thought of other schools around expanding and getting football, how cool would it be to have like a JUCO Jersey League, right? Or JUCO, like, kind of like the NJAC, where it's, in these local areas, to kind of bring JUCO up to this realm of the world, right? Which would be awesome, because, those opportunities, they're few and far between. But, and he referenced it, guys that have to go to Cali to play, or, other states like far away. Like there's no need for that. Like, let's do some things right here where we can have it and make it a nice little JUCO league, and those guys can go and compete and then, kind of go where they want from there. So that would be really cool to see it down the road. He's really going to be like, this will be a really, really important in terms of like foundational piece for other schools that want to go and do this. Like if they have success in terms of like, just how the whole thing goes about it, right? Like other teams are going to take this model and kind of run with it, So that's cool too. Like he's creating a blueprint for others to kind of go and follow suit and do what they need to do in order to make it work. So if he can be successful with it, there's no doubt that I see other colleges, going and doing this, like you said, because it's a driver of, like now, like you said, there's 100 new kids on campus just because they play football. And then the things that come off of football, like you said, cheerleading, just student interest in the school itself, because, hey, they have a football team. We get to go do something on campus for, 8, however many, 5, 6 games a year or whatever that is. Like a football team just adds appeal to a school in general, no matter what level.
Absolutely. It's a gigantic boost to people from a standpoint that they're going to get more people in the school, you get more revenue. The JUCOs in New Jersey are they have some issues, with enrollment, and that will create 100 paying customers that'll be able to succeed. And I think that's super, super important. because the way the college landscape is, which I didn't realize that because he mentioned the drop in population or whatever, um, which I didn't know that as far as from a college standpoint. That's an interesting fact to learn,
Well, people just
but
didn't
it's
have kids or as many, right?
what's that?
I said people just didn't have kids. Like there's a generation of like,
Right,
where
right. There's a whole generation.
right, or they
Exactly.
just didn't have as many, right? Or
As
like a
many, or
boom
maybe
or
didn't have
whatever.
as
Of
many.
course, right? Like so
Correct. So,
now, like
so that
you're literally fighting for less kids to go to college, right? And now too, with the way the world is, right? Like college, the going to college and getting a 4-year degree or just going to college in general, right? Doesn't pull the same weight as it used to. People like can go and do things and be successful by definition without going to college or doing some of those things. So, you're kind of looking at a market of, like I said, less kids, you're right, all kind of fighting for the same, couple. It's just less to pull from. And what did he say? It doesn't
no
change
doubt.
back till 2036 is when it goes. It starts to spike
maybe
back
there's
up. Bell curve
that's
or whatever that is, whatever that shit is.
something. It's something. Um, really, really interesting. I think that's going to be a catalyst uh, for his success in that standpoint. And I don't know. It's really, really. Um, I'm curious to see. Like, it would be really cool to have a JUCO system for football
Yeah.
in New Jersey. I think that is, I
I
don't
mean, look,
know, like
Mississippi
that's
does it, right? California does it, right? Like they
a
have
great
these JUCO
opportunity.
systems.
It's a great opportunity for football players in New Jersey because uh, you have football is important, and there's not, again, we have very few what do you call opportunities college wise outside of D3. We have a great opportunity D3 wise, no doubt. But outside of it, and that could give kids that want to continue to like stay in the game, think they could be doing that maybe a higher level or want to take their shot or whatever it is, gives you that opportunity to do it. Or get your grades up without having to go far away to get it done.
Yep.
I think that's another big, huge component, right, to it. Because how many times have kids said, "Oh, I'm just going to go to uh, uh, Brookdale, for example, for 2 years, and then I'll go
Right.
join my sport." No, they never end up doing it.
No,
So
because it's 2
now
years
you
of
can go.
whatever.
Yeah, you just because if
Once
you
you
don't
get out of
play,
it, man, you like, yeah, it's
you're
just
out
like
of it.
you're
Yeah,
out of
it's
it, and it's like,
very
hey, yeah, of course. If you're not in that routine daily, like you see the good life, right? Like, so, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
I don't have to,
You
I don't have to
right.
train, I don't have to whatever. Look, it's COVID did it to a lot of people, right? Like, hey, they didn't have to do whatever, and now all of a sudden it was like, wow, what am I doing? I don't really need to do this. So,
Right.
yeah, I
Right.
mean, it's part of it.
Yeah. 110%, because any sport, once you stop working the way you're working, it's very hard. It's like anything. Once you stop to accelerate again is the hardest thing. So once you stop sports or training for sports to accelerate back and to go to where it's very, very difficult. And your body, from a performance size, once you stop your body from a performance size, it's not you deteriorate as far as like physically looks wise, but your performance area deteriorates very quickly, very,
Way
very
faster
quickly.
than people understand
People don't realize how fast it is, and then it takes double time
to come
to
back.
get to come back. So that's what makes the road back. When you stop, when people are like, "Oh, he stopped, he'll never come back," they're like, "How do you know he's never come back?" The only reason you know that 99% of people are not going to come back is because once you lose some of it, to get back is so hard. So even if you do restart, you're like, "Oh my goodness, I lost all this stuff." and I have to restart it, and that's a very difficult process for any human. No, I don't care if they're a great athlete or not. You know what I mean? Like any human being to gain back what you lost, it requires a tremendous amount of desire
Right.
and a tremendous amount of
Like you have
focus.
to have one hell of a design of like a why as to why I'm really doing this, to take time off and then go back. You know what I'm saying? Because
Absolutely, and
it's
you do
easier to
see
not.
kids that do. You do
Of
see
course,
kids
of
that
course.
do,
There's always
but
outliers. There's always going to be that, right? But
but
for the
it
most
is it
part,
is
like
incredible.
it's a
People
grind,
they underestimate how difficult it is.
right? And remember, you're also 2 years behind guys that have still been in it for 2 years, right? Like, so they've been grinding and working for 2 years, and you've hit the pause button for 2 years, right? Like now you only have to play catch up that much more.
Yep. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. It's it's uh it's great stuff. That was great talking to him. I mean, that was a
Yeah, he's the man.
really,
He's been a good guy for
like
a
he
long
really
time.
is. I mean,
Sometimes him
he
being a
really
good
is.
guy, I think, cost him a little bit when he was at Rowan, right? Because it was kind of just like, hey, he's the nice going guy or whatever. You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to be a little bit of a killer when it comes to that recruiting world and whatnot. And but he just really always ran a good, clean program with tough players. You know what I'm saying? So those guys that are there now are so fortunate to have, like you said, that kind of grandpa, right? Like that older over, like, the guy that's going to coach you really hard, but he's also there to be like, understand it and has been in it for so long, dude. There's just always something to me with like that experience. Like you can't beat experience. Like I would be and this is a personal take. Like it would be really hard for me to kind of go and want to play for a guy who was, maybe it was his first job or he was young or whatever, right? Like there's just something to be said for experience and a track record of success, that just, for me personally, like it just lobbies, it's a more favorable thing for me.
There's no doubt. I mean, I think that. Well, I haven't played for somebody that was very young in college, not outside of college. I always thought that was and having played before for a guy that was old, like it was a totally different experience. It wasn't good or bad, like what I'm saying. There was good and bad, and there was good and bad in both. You know what I mean? But it was, there is something to experience, and having been there, I think is very, very important in sports. And when they become a head coach, now their second job or a couple of years in, now they know what it is. They know what the deal is, but that takes time. I mean, that really takes time.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those things that you never really until you get the experience, you don't know exactly what that's like. And and he's been there. I mean, the dude's won a million games.
I know.
You know, it's mind-blowing how many games he has won. And
just the stability to kind of be at that the same place for that long. You know what I'm saying?
Right. The stability is in college football, it's like does not happen. Like does not happen. So but that's the deal, man. That's good. It's good stuff. We're all set for this weekend, which is great. I
gotta talk to you after about an issue that's arisen with a team for 8U, 9U. So I think you're gonna have to reach out and talk to them.
8U and 9U. Okay. All right, I'll figure that out. Oh, because I combined. Well, yeah, there's only 2 and 2.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a little bit of that, but also just like some of the. I think I don't know if I don't know if he's going to be able to field the team based off of like time and whatnot, and kind of some of the things on his end. But so I think you're going to have a conversation because I don't think he's going to be able to bring his team.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll call you about that right now.
Yeah.
Go with that.
Sounds good.
All right. Who we got Monday?
Coach Rob Spence. So longtime high level
Okay.
OC. Be awesome to talk to him.
That sounds good. Great pod. That was a great.
Most recently
Good
of
job.
the Georgetown Hoyas.
Right. Oh, that's how I know the name. Because he was the Georgetown.
Yeah, he was the OC, I want to say, for the last 4 or 5 years, maybe a
Yes.
little longer. But before that,
Yes.
he was look, he was the OC at Clemson. Dabo was his receivers coach. He's been at Syracuse, Toledo, Chattanooga. You know what I mean? Like, originally, like, I think I want to say,
reached
like,
out to him before.
Yeah, one of his first things was, like, Hofstra. He's a run and shoot guy, so that's cool. I'm always juiced to talk to those guys. All right, man. I'll talk to you.
Cool, man. All right.